Excellencies, distinguished dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and good evening. We are gathered here today to salute the courage and the resilience of the people of Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, to pay homage to their sacrifices and to join our voice with others to share their grief, to listen their sorrows. We are privileged to have with us members of the Pakistani Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs, representing the spectrum of political opinion in our upper house of Parliament. The people of occupied Jammu and Kashmir continue to bear with great fortitude untold adversities unleashed by a ruthless and merciless oppressor. A picture, it is said, is worth 1,000 words. You have before you the vivid saga of Indian occupation, the abuse it has entailed, the crimes it has committed, the costs it has brought to bear upon a helpless and helpless population. Kashmiris in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir are being brutally and systematically murdered, maimed and raped for the simple crime of demanding their right of self-determination. A right inherent to all mankind as an inalienable and sacrosanct as life itself. A right that has been committed by the international community and by India itself. But India has no intention of honoring its commitments. As the international community stands idly by, India has drawn upon the occupied territories a heavy and opaque iron curtain. Behind the iron curtain, oppression of every conceivable nature goes unabated, unquestioned, and unaccounted. By the reckoning of the Indian state, every civilian in Indian occupied Kashmir is a terrorist, and the cheapest commodity there is life of a Kashmiri. Brutal crackdowns, curfews, detentions, massacres, target killings, sieges, burn downs, torture, disappearances, rapes, molestations and fake encounters have not extinguished the flame of freedom, only fueled it further. In 3 decades of the latest uprising, conservative estimates put 100,000 martyred, 145,000 arrested, 23,000 women widowed, 11,111 gang raped or molested, 108,000 children orphaned, and 109,000 structures arson and gutted. I wish to draw your attention towards the unrelenting atrocities, oppression and torture being faced by the Kashmiri women. Half-widow is a term unique to the Indian occupied Kashmir context, alluding to married Kashmiri women whose husbands have disappeared and remain missing, their fates unknown. Sexual humiliation and rape remain a favored tool at the hands of the occupation forces. What happened in the villages of Kunan and Poshpura on the cold night on 23rd February 1991 is still alive in the minds and memories of people. In a search and cordon operation, over 100 women were reportedly dishonored. Children too have been victims of unfathomable horrors. An entire generation is growing up traumatized under the dark shadow of targeted attacks, sexual violence, and forced disappearances. In November 2018, Heba, 20-month-old girl from Sufyan in Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, was hit by pellets. Tragically, despite undergoing surgery, she might still lose eyesight in her right eye. Kashmiris are aware that their injuries may not be taken seriously by the international community. The rampant use of pellet guns has destroyed the lives of several thousand Kashmiris, blinding and mutilating them, taking away their eyesight and livelihood. And who can forget the case of 8-year-old Asfa Bano of Katwa, who was abducted, repeatedly gang raped, and ultimately killed. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the tip of the iceberg. It is hard to imagine the true quantum of atrocities being committed. And yet, justice has been elusive all these years, as the Indian Army has continued to exercise barbarism under the umbrella of impunity afforded by the Armed Forces Special Powers Act. This draconian law calls for investigation only if allowed by the government. To date, not a single conviction for any crime perpetrated by the armed forces in Kashmir has taken place. The deteriorating situation in the Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir has made it all the more necessary to establish an independent, impartial, and international investigation to assess the situation in the Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistan has repeatedly called for an unbiased investigation into the gross human rights violations in Indian-occupied Kashmir. This is consistent with the report of the United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, which confirms the atrocities and calls for the formation of a commission of inquiry to investigate human rights abuses. The OHCHR report on Jammu and Kashmir corroborates the observation of the report of OIC Independent Permanent Human Rights Commission, which also impressed upon the Indian government to provide access to its fact-finding mission. UK All Parties Parliamentary Kashmir Group, in its report on Jammu and Kashmir, has called on the Indian government to undertake a series of measures, including initiating a comprehensive public investigation into the identities of bodies in unmarked graves. Blanket refusal to legitimate scrutiny only raises questions. What is the government of India trying to hide from the international community? Ladies and gentlemen, these pictures and the stories they narrate warrant our consideration and compassion. They cry out for empathy and understanding. They beacon our collective conscience to raise our voices and combine our efforts. They call in short for justice. Let us resolve to stand by our Kashmiri brethren as they seek justice and fulfill their yearning for Azadi. Let us lend them our strength. Let us add our voices to theirs. I thank you, and thank you.
Shah Mahmood